So first, thank you all for attending to this talk. It's called Soft Skills in Software Development. Again, thank you so much for letting me be again. I feel very honored, and I'm William Antonio Guzman Bernal. I want you to imagine something. Imagine two Boeing 747s in the same airport, on the same runway, with a terrible weather conditions. There was fog. And this, one of the captains took off without clearance from control tower. Sadly, you don't have to imagine that, because it happened in the real life. 583 people died in what is known now as the Tenerife Airport disaster. It happened on March 27th, on 1977. The question is, could good communication have saved lives in that event? Nice to meet you. I'm William Antonio Guzman Bernal. I believe in God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. I'm a Colombian IT professional living in Chile since 2016. I have more than 20 years of working experience. Thanks to God, I worked in almost all the range of software development. I've been developer, QA leader, technical support, project manager, chief technology officer, DevOps, data architect, and my latest jobs have been as solutions architect. Right now, I am a principal AWS engineer at Sparq, and my highest certification is AWS Solutions Architect Professional. With the imagination, the exercise of imagination we had before, we can determine that communication is a skill. But what is a skill? And I want to investigate. Skill is the ability to do something well. Again, I wanted to investigate now what is an ability. And an ability is a talent, skill, or proficiency in a particular area. It's kind of confusing. So I invite you all to think that a skill is know how to do something and do it well, so we can arrange. I took these concepts from Oxford Languages. Skills. We have skills that are restricted or constrained to technical areas, and they are limited to a specific profession. We can say that we have hard skills for profession 1, profession 2, and so on. But they all are encapsulated in what is known previously as soft skills. Skills, again, is know how to do something well. But soft skills, they were known as important job-related skills that involve little or no interaction with machines and whose application on the job is quite generalized. This concept of soft skills came on 1974, and it was used by the first time in the US Army. Let's take a look. This was taken from the document. You can browse it in the internet, and I'm gonna read it, just a small read. A tentative definition of soft skills might be formulated as follows. Soft skills are important, job-related skills, yes, which involve little or no interaction with machines. Let's remember that we're talking in a US Army environment. These skills, including standardized because the situation or context contains a great deal of uncertainty. That is, we don't know much about the physical and social environments in which the skill occurs, and we don't know much about the consequences of different ways of accomplishing the job function. In other words, those job functions about which we know a good deal are hard skills, and those about which we know very little are soft skills. All these texts, all these concepts can be summarized in soft skills, we know very little, hard skills, we know a good deal. If we are going to program and we are using a software, we're using a programming language, probably we know that under certain circumstances, their output will depend directly on the input. We know a good deal. But out of that context, if we don't know the result, or there is something we completely ignore, that can be part of soft skills area. So let's review again our graph. We have soft skills, we know very little, and there is an uncertainty level. And they all, in my humble opinion, are greater or are more wide, generalized, and applied than the hard skills. I respect the hard skills. Of course, it is important to know how to wire computers, know how to assemble computers, know how to program them. But it happens that in software development is not the only jobs, roles, and functions we need to execute. For all the rest, which are broader, they have a more important and more relevant to our human beings' condition, we can refer to the soft skills. But let's remember that we are talking about power skills. And I invite you to check these concepts. Power is the ability or capacity to do something or act in a particular way. Yeah. We need power to run machines. We need power to do exercises. We need power to create things. Yeah. But there is another concept in which the power is the capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. Now, we have completely isolated concepts. I can do something, or I can influence people. I can affect the result of an input depending on the power I direct or I apply to that. It kind of confused me. So I continued. And I asked myself, why not both? Why cannot we think of power skill as the ability or capacity to do something or act in a particular way, yeah, and at the same time influence the behavior of others or the course of events? I'm quite sure you can go and browse internet and other references, and you may find concepts different to this from power skill. I invite you to do it. But for this talk, we're gonna keep this. If we have a power skill, it means that we know how to do something, and we know how to do it well, right? Remember, skill. But it also means that by applying that power skill, we can influence people. Let's remember the exercise we imagined at the beginning. Communication, the disaster. So we can say communication is a power skill. Why? Because it's the process of sharing information, thoughts, and ideas between individuals or groups, and at the same time, influence the behavior of others or the course of events according to that share. For that specific disaster, the communication failed because the information that was in the control tower, right, probably stop, do not start the plane, do not fly. That was the information that was needed to share between the two pilots, and it failed. And it also failed because the course of events was disaster. It failed. Now let's wonder, what other skills can we find? And by these others skills, let's try to think of the concepts we have defined before. The ability to do something, to do it well, to influence people, and that skill applied to a specific job area of knowledge can change the course of or the events that will apply. But I think it's better if we try to apply with an exercise. Only if possible, I would like to ask you, to each one of you, to take a sheet of paper and a pen. Only if possible. It's okay if you can't do it now. You can follow me also with imagination. So, we need only a paper, pen or pencil, and a very basic activity. Think of an activity in your daily life. That activity requires time and resources. That's all the only two requirements for that specific activity. In this example, my activity will be making a breakfast, cooking breakfast. And I'm going to start with the first step. The first step is plan. When you plan, you need to think of goals, the purpose, scheduling, resources. If I'm making a breakfast, the plan should consider that I need to feed my family tomorrow morning with whatever is available in the kitchen. And it may take 30 seconds to think of that, the plan. The second step could be design. In this step, we need to identify requirements and identify best solutions to meet one or all of the requirements. Let's continue with the breakfast example. The requirements is probably I live with my father and my mother, and we only have eggs, bread, and oranges. To design the breakfast, I need to consider all of this. The next step is to actually make the breakfast. In this step, we're going to produce or elaborate the desired or required tasks. So imagine yourself actually doing the breakfast. You may try to describe it, the process. Okay, I break the eggs, I took oil, and I boiled the eggs, and then I grab the bread. Try to elaborate it in your imagination. That's the third step. The next step is to test what I'm doing. I need to check if what is being produced corresponds and meets the requirements. How will you test what you're doing is correctly? Probably I get some salt, and I got some sugar, and I will take a spoon and try to analyze if it tastes good or not. For the fourth step. The next step is to deliver. So once I completed making the breakfast, I'm going to move or promote whatever we were building to its final stage. In this example is take whatever I cooked from the kitchen to the dining room. And finally, I may ask opinions from people who used or enjoyed the final work. I need to get that feedback. Was it delicious? Was it salty? Was it simple? I need to consider that. Let's make a quick review. We had 6 steps: plan, design, make, test, deliver, and feedback. I'm going to make an assumption here. It's a risky one. And I like to say that human activities, whether if they are small or large, could be mainly defined but not limited in these 6 steps. Again, if you think of something that is going to take and consume resources and time from your life, try to split that activity into these 6 steps. Did your activity, the one you were thinking, involve more than one person in any of the 6 steps? If that was the case, you may take advantage of power skills. Let's return to the breakfast example. For the feedback, I definitely needed another person to tell me, honestly, his or her opinion about the breakfast. If I was in the planning, I may wonder, what I'm going to cook. So I'm going to ask people because I need to get that input. If I'm going to make, probably I'm going to need help from another person who has more skills at cooking. Again, only examples. And depending on the source, if you go to investigate, power skills can be the ones you see listed in here. I only took 3 sources from the many ones that are available right now. But I saw that they have some few things in common. For the Project Management Institute, communication is a power skill, emotional intelligence, problem solving, and teamwork. If you go to Forbes, they say that it's communication skills, problem solving, teamwork, time management, and emotional intelligence. If you go to McKinsey, you will see a larger list: planning and ways of working, communication, developing relationships, teamwork, effectiveness. And it depends, again, on the source. You may find, I even found a list with 43 power skills, many. But I propose this small list, these 7 categories for power skills. We have communication and influence. We have problem solving and critical thinking, collaboration and leadership, digital and technological agility, emotional intelligence and adaptability, work ethic and self-management, and finally, cultural and social intelligence. In each one of these 7 categories, I listed some examples: teamwork, empathy, accountability, decision-making, resilience, adaptability. They are detailed skills among these 7 categories. And I want to emphasize that this is a potential list. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the final one. Again, it depends on the source you're consulting. But let's keep this list. And now, let's return to our 6 steps. Plan, design, make, test, deliver, and feedback. All of them, or some, will involve the power skills. All of the power skills, or some of them. And I'm going to review it again. Sorry if I repeat. Communication and influence, problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, leadership, digital and technological agility, emotional intelligence and adaptability, work ethic and self-management, cultural and social intelligence. If we return to the breakfast example, you may say that not all of the 6 steps involve power skills, because you may think of large and complex activities, but no. If you start learning the power skills from the basic activities, you can expand, you can scale out to other things. And guess what? If you have followed the example, you are applying power skills to the software development lifecycle, or SDLC, as it's commonly referred. Let's check why or how. Again, we have the 6 steps. They comprise the human activity workflow, power skills. And at the bottom, the lower part, we have the software development lifecycle. Each one of these steps has hard skills and or power skills. If we follow each one of them, the make step is the implement, the 3rd step. Deliver is deploy. Feedback is maintain. But the essence of these 6 steps is pretty much the same. If I'm going to develop software, I need to plan. I need to talk to the stakeholders, to the clients, to the customers, to the potential end users. I need to plan what is going to be done. And then I move on to the design phase. I need to probably think of an architecture, technological stack, the requirements, the flow of the data end to end in the architecture, in the software. Then I move on to implement. In this step, I may actually code, I may deploy, create resources. Right? If I go to the 4th, I'm going to test, probably, and it's very good practice at the plan stage that you create some unit tests, some testing plans to do it and use them in this step. You want to be sure that your software is correctly working and is giving the expected results. In the 5th step, you will be deploying your solution. You can promote it as it's correctly sown. You may promote it from development environment to QA environment and finally to production stage. Depending on the company, some call it pre-production, some call it staging. The names may vary, but they refer to the same thing. You take your code, your artifacts, your software from a product, from a testing and development environment to a production environment. And when you maintain the software, it means that you are responsible for the final solution. It's not about giving something to the client and forget about it. You must assume that it's going to be requiring some of your time. You have to maintain it, check if it has bugs, get the feedback from the end users, propose new features, or, as I have seen many cases, you may have a technical debt with a long list of features that need to be implemented in production. But I want you to think of this. The power skills go from 1 to 6, but the hard skills may be limited to one of these steps. For example, if I'm going to make a data software where we have transformations or data, I can think of Python as the programming language. And it's very likely that I'm going to use Python only in the implement phase, probably in the testing phase if I want to use some Python test packages. But only that. Hard skills are quite limited to some steps. If you want to use frameworks to plan your software, that is going to be the first step only. the hard skills have been isolated in any of these 6 steps. The power skills is very different. You can use them end to end. And now let's welcome artificial intelligence, something that is being very, very well referred. The trend has been growing year after year. Trust me, I will have more than, I started coding when I was like 12 years old. I'm talking about 1991. And even in that point, the artificial intelligence term was not widely used, but it already existed. Now, with all these improvements, all these technologies we are seeing now, the fear that is appearing now, the artificial intelligence is here, whether you use it or not. It doesn't matter if you are aware of it or not. And it has come with its pros and cons, as any other thing. I'm not saying that you should avoid it. I'm not saying either that you should completely rely on the artificial intelligence. I'm only saying that it's here, whether we like it or not. Artificial intelligence could eventually hear, see, taste, touch, or smell better than human beings. I invite you to forget about fighting or competing against artificial intelligence. I use glasses, so I won't go against a machine that is completely dedicated to see things at long distances. I'm not so good with complex math, so I won't fight against a computer that is completely dedicated or has many features, including complex math. That's for sure. I'm not saying it will happen in this year, next year, or next 5 years, but I strongly believe that eventually the artificial intelligence will do, if not all of them, many of these better than we human beings. Again, whether we like it or not, let's face it, technology is moving fast. So they could do that better than human beings. But artificial intelligence will never be better human than we human beings. I'm absolutely confident of that. Why? Because the power skills have a strong dependency on human factors. You may try to teach an LLM, you may try to teach Gen AI, general artificial intelligence, to think like humans, but it's not only about think, it's about actually being human. And I'm sure that won't happen. Is only my humble opinion. Let's make another exercise. Let's imagine something else. We are living in the Cold War. Let's imagine 80s, right? The Cold War, United States versus Soviet Union. And there is this nuclear missiles warning system. A system dedicated to detect if any nuclear war or missile is coming from the United States. And let's imagine a Soviet Union colonel, a person responsible for the system, a person with orders to follow. And there is an alert of an incoming strike from the United States. There was this protocol to follow. This is the perfect recipe for disaster. If you summarize, if you sum all of these factors, you will have a nuclear disaster. But what happened? This colonel hesitated. He is a human being, and he had doubts. Although the nature of the alert seemed to be abundantly clear, Mr. Petrov had some doubts, as we human beings. And he said in an interview, My colleagues were all professional soldiers. They were taught to give and obey orders. And it happens that Mr. Petrov had a background in human and professional development, not only soldier. Mr. Petrov called the duty officer in the Soviet Army's headquarters and reported a system malfunction. Thankfully, his instincts told him that something wasn't right, and he decided not to raise the alarm. And millions of lives were saved on September 26, 1983. I invite you to read about it. There are even movies, documentaries, the man who saved the world, because he was man, he was a human being. He applied to man, woman, a human being. So please, my invitation is to embrace your humanity, identify your own power skills, and work on them. Because again, you won't be able to fight against a machine in a machine area. Don't go that way. I have read over and over on about daily how machines, software, generate AI is doing everything better and better and better like a machine. We should not go that way. Let's embrace our humanity. We have doubts. Students, in my opinion, doubts are a powerful tool. Do not be afraid of have doubts. If you hesitate on a specific situation, it's good because it forces you to analyze better and with more insights and more information that situation. I also have seen many software projects and many people working in software industry that simply went that way because it was the protocol, but they didn't have this instinct of stopping and realizing and checking everything. They didn't go correctly, and the results were not the best. Thanks a lot, and I'd like to take these minutes to answer, to share if you have any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Yep, I appreciate it. And 혹시 질문 있으신 분 있으실까요?
Okay, thank you, Mr. William Antonio Guzman Bernal. Am I right? Okay, I really appreciate your talking about power skills. And my question is, when students are interviewing for jobs, if you were interviewing, if you were hiring a developer, especially software developer, what respect would you consider the most important, and what is the reason?
Okay. Thank you for your question, and I'm going to answer with something that happened to me. I had an interview. I was only a candidate. I was competing with more people, and I got the job. When I got into the company and I worked, I talked to the human resources person who interviewed me, and we were friends. We made a friendship, and he said, "William, I remember that you were not the best at programming. The other candidates, they were far better than you at programming, but you were the only one who was able to keep a conversation. When you were in the interview process, you talked fluently, you talked with confidence. This I'm doing here, I use my body. If you students are going to face an interview, remember that the person is going to analyze every single thing you say, even when you don't open your mouth. If you talk like this and you start shaking, I understand. Right now, I'm very afraid because I feel very honored, very happy, but also very anxious, right? Don't reflect that. Keep it for yourself at the beginning, right? You're human beings, so do not get this rush of emotions control your communication. If you're going to say something, say it with confidence. Trust in yourself. Trust that you will fail also. It's good. We don't know all the answers. And I am seeing that recruiters are strictly and increasingly considering all the other things, not only the technical. You can be experts in programming language. You can be experts at creating networks. But if you don't know how to keep a conversation with one single person, you won't get that job. Every single time of a software project, you're working with people and more people. You're working with people who are angry. You're working with people who is happy. You're working with people who lives alone with their families. You're working with people like you. So if I was going to interview you, I will ask you to have a seat and I will try to talk to you in a confident way. Right? I'm not sure if I answered your question properly. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have one question. Thank you for your presentation. And at first, you said communication skills is very important nowadays. So what do you recommend that a student should do if a student is undergraduate student attending university?
Okay. Again, another experience I got when I was in the university, when I applied to that university, I investigated the career and try to imagine. I'm talking about 1998, and I wanted to study computer sciences. Internet, Google was not even there, and the resources were very few, scarce. But you have now the tools. If you want to apply to a university or to a program, investigate. What is the program you want to apply? What is that thing you want to study? And why that? Because when I was in the interview with the director of the Department of Computer Sciences, he asked me this: why do you want to study computer sciences? Do you know the projection of this career? Have you seen yourself? How do you see yourself in 5 years? And I took enough time before I prepared myself to ask, if not all of them, at least to have most of the knowledge, the data. Because I have seen that. I am mentoring many people right now, thanks to God. I'm mentoring a lot of people from Ghana, from Nigeria, Iran, and Pakistan, and they're young like you. And when I say, okay, great, and they start asking, I need to program, I need to do this, I need to learn. Why? No, because, and they start to vacillate and they start to wonder, okay, it's okay, don't worry. How do you see yourself in 5 years? No, I see myself working in a big company. Great. What is a big company for you? Is it a company that pays a lot of money for you? Because I see big companies that pay very, very few. So investigate, why are you applying to that career, to that university, to that job? Find the company or the university in internet. Why that and not others? And what are you going to give to that university or company? Because also I have seen many times, I want to be paid, I want to receive, I want to do, but remember that you are talking to a person. What are you going to give to that person, to that university, to that company? It's a mutual relationship. It's about you growing as person, as human beings, and the company growing along with you. You don't get a position in a company that you don't see yourself for a long time. It's not good. It's not something I will do. If I want to go to a company or study a career because I have nothing else to do, I better wait a little more. I should investigate and think my goals, my professional, my personal, and my working goals. And when I try to get at least one or two in each of these categories, I will say, yes, this is the company for me. Yes, this is the university for me because I am checking this. And you make your own checklist.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer.
Thanks, Steve.
Oh, hi, William. I'm Junwon from Computer Science and Engineering. I have a short question. So, do power skill differ or vary from person to person or between people?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry.
Do power skill differ from people to people or vary from person to person? Yeah.
How to differ? How to highlight yourself from other people?
Do power skill differ from people, person to person?
How power skill differ from person to person? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. What I have seen in my experience is that obviously we are human beings and we think and we move and we have different likes and dislikes. But if you are in a software project, you need to understand that you need to have a common baseline. You have working with C-level, stakeholders, and users, programmers, but the common baseline can be budget. Okay, we can't go beyond this price, time, right? The authority, we need to respond to these authorities inside the company. So the first thing I will do, even if there are many different power skills and they differ from each person, try to get the common baseline, a common agreement between all the people involved in the project. And if I also have seen that if you have a group of people and they all understand the importance, the individual importance in the project, they feel encouraged to do their best, they feel happy for being in the project, and the result shows and highlights and shines for itself. So my answer will be try to talk to other people, try to identify the categories of the power skills, and then choose common baseline, common goals, common likes and dislikes about that. There is the band, budget, authority, needs, timeline. Try to think of these categories when you are entering any software project. How much is going to cost? Who should we answer to? What are the needs? And what time do we have to accomplish all that band? And from that, let the people be people.
Oh, thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your presentation today. I have one simple question. So is there any other academic field except computer science you recommend to undergrad students? So in my experience, in students in US, they study like other subjects like philosophy or economics with computer science. So is there any recommendation for other students to develop their ability to work in industry? Does that
Yes,
make
thank you. Yep. Thank you for your question. And yes, we need to complement. We are not coding machines. So what I have seen is that some people go with maths and they have a broader mathematical study. I remember that I had a job interview and my boss, because he hired me finally, he said, I want you to be in this interview because you were math teacher. And during that 1 hour, there was not one single question about programming. He only asked me about math, how to solve things in a mathematical way, how to graph lines, equations. So my first suggestion is go with math if you can, and it will give you a strong foundation for computers. Also, try to study. I am doing this. I'm studying theology. As I mentioned, I believe in God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, and I have seen that touch the human base, the human conditions, help me to correlate and work better with people, because it helps you to remember and keep in mind that we have flaws, we have differences, we have likes, dislikes, but at the end of the day, we are a collectivity. We are all working for the same purposes or for the same goal, accomplish a software project. So math, theology or philosophy, if you can call it that way. Arts, yeah, why not? Let's remember that Steve Jobs started with arts, and we have the fonts in our computers thanks to that. So if you want also to expand, try to think something that definitely doesn't have anything to do with programming languages. Do not focus on that. And try to complement with more human careers, mathematical, theology or philosophy, arts. That would be my suggestions. And science, I mentored a person yesterday, and she had background in sciences, but not computer sciences. Marketing. Every time we are selling ourselves in the positive way, right? So from the very first moment that you talk to a person and you have visual contact, respectable visual contact, you are marketing yourself. So that's another thing that I can think of. You can study marketing. Yep, that would be.
Thank you for your presentation. It was an honor to hear your presentation, sir. I am a freshman in this university, undergraduate, and I always wanted to be a leader, and I think I am good at lead my team to get a better score. But after I went to this college, there was a lot of people who has a better leadership quality and get a better score. And because of that, I looked back myself, and I didn't have any certain reason to want to be a leader. So I heard you were a leader of AWS. I want to know your story to be a leader and the motivation to be a leader in your experience.
Thank you. The honor is mine to be here in this event. And thanks for your question. And I'm sorry if this may not be good, but it's all thanks to God. Why? Because I like to help people. And every time I talk to people, I learn from people. I think that helped me because when I was in a company, like 3 years ago, and I started to help learn AWS, some of them talked between them, right? I didn't know all my coworkers. And one of them said, William, I've heard that you know AWS. Could you teach me something? And I said, yes, sure. Let's learn together. Do not think of yourself in a higher position than others. We are all equal. With different skills, but we are all equal. Nobody's more or less than you. We are all equal. And when that person started to talk to me, we said, okay, we could do something great, but where do you live? And he lives in Paraguay. Remember, I live in Chile. And I said, let's try to do something. And I investigated that there was this program, users group. And I said, we need to help people. What is the AWS level of expertise in Paraguay? And he said, not much. Okay, let's create a user group. We need to help people to learn. In these 9 years I have worked with these technologies, I have seen my professional, my personal even, and my working life growing. So we created the first ever user group. And it started by trying and genuinely willing to help people and listen to them. A suggestion, listen to understand, not listen to reply or to answer. And what happened in Paraguay also happened in Congo. I helped create the first AWS users group in Congo. And it happened in another city in Colombia. So again, if you feel discouraged or probably you feel frustrated by others, no, do not compare yourself to other people. If you want to compare to someone, compare to the person you were yesterday. Every day, try to do something better. Take a small step to make yourself a better person, a better son, a better friend, a better student, a better teacher, a better mentor, a better mentee, but to yourself. I have committed a mistake, and there was a moment when I said, okay, I'm happy for them. If they progress, I'm happy for them. And let's see what I can learn from them. And I'm talking about 15 years ago. When I stopped comparing to myself to other people, I felt relaxed. I felt that this weight over my shoulders was gone. So I invite you to again think of yourself as a leader. There is a leader in each one of you. You probably are not seeing it now, but I'm sure that if you are sitting listening to me, it's because you want to improve. It's because you want to do something better. It's because you want to help people. Each one of you is a leader, a potential leader. It's only waiting for you.
Thank you very much. And there's one more room, or I'll read it for you. Okay, there's one question in the Q&A section from Dana Song. So she said, plan, design, make, test, deliver, and feedback. There was the 6th part of software development. So what part of the 6-step development process do you think require the most important power skills as a developer?
Okay, thank you, Dana, for your question. In my experience, I have seen many people, many genius and brilliant people wasting a lot of time because they didn't take enough time at planning. If you ask a person, please, I need you to create this software, and that person immediately starts with a keyboard and coding, with all respect, I will say that this is not going well. But instead, if you go to a developer and that person takes 30 minutes or 1 hour just listening to you, asking the right questions, in the planning phase, it will help you to save a lot of money, time, effort, fights also. The plan is the most important and critical phase as developer, QA, CTO, architect, that in my experience. Planning makes most of the time, most of the effort, or most of the results come from the planning phase. And I will add that you can't, I don't remember now who said this, but you can't get the right answers if you ask the wrong questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your answer and your detailed experience. If there's no more question, I think we sincerely thank you for sharing your time and experience with us. This concludes the 68th session of Global IT Experts Meet Kingos. Thank you so much for your lecture. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.